Some rules do not sound like rules. They sound like loyalty, responsibility, maturity. After enough years, they can even sound like your own voice. You become the dependable one. The calm one. The person who never asks for too much. You keep helping, fixing, and holding everyone steady, until you forget to ask whether the life you protect still includes you. Certain rules become more dangerous after 50 asks for too much. You keep helping, fixing, and holding everyone steady, until you forget to ask whether the life you protect still includes you. Certain rules become more dangerous after 50. They may have helped you belong, build a career, raise a family, or survive difficult years. But a rule that protected one stage of life can imprison the next. Carl Jung used the word persona for the social identity we develop to function in the world. The persona is not false. We need it. The problem begins when the role becomes so rigid that we cannot tell where the performance ends and the person begins. Today we will examine 7 rules that can keep a life respectable on the outside and strangely absent on the inside. And the final rule is the most convincing because it disguises fear as realism. Rule 1: My value comes from being needed. Perhaps you are the person who remembers, organizes, advises, and rescues. People praise your reliability, so you rarely ask what it costs. Then no one needs anything for a few hours, and instead of relief, you feel invisible. That feeling reveals the hidden agreement. I deserve my place because I am useful. But being needed is not the same as being known. Someone may depend on what you do while knowing almost nothing about what you want. Breaking this rule means allowing yourself to exist without constantly earning your place through service. And the next rule is harder to recognize because people often praise it as kindness. Rule 2: Keeping the peace matters more than telling the truth. Consider a woman named Nora. At 58, she has become the emotional translator in her family. When someone says something hurtful, Nora explains what they probably meant. When plans inconvenience her, she says it is fine. At lunch, her sister volunteers Nora to host another gathering. Nora is tired, but the old calculation begins. If I say no, she will be upset. If she is upset, everyone will feel it. Therefore, my no is the problem. For the first time, Nora says, I cannot host this one. The room becomes quiet. Her sister looks disappointed. Nothing collapses. The inversion is important. Discomfort is not always proof that you did something wrong. Sometimes it is the feeling of an old arrangement losing control. From a Jungian perspective, qualities excluded from the acceptable persona do not disappear. Assertiveness, anger, ambition, and healthy self-interest may be pushed into what Jung called the shadow. Later, they can return as resentment, exhaustion, or reactions that seem unlike you. Rule 3 grows from the same pattern. Rest must be earned. You finish one task and immediately notice 3 more. You sit down, but your body remains prepared to rise. The list never ends, so rest is postponed until exhaustion makes the decision. The hidden belief is not merely that work matters. It is that stillness makes you guilty. Yet rest can reveal what constant activity conceals: grief, desire, disappointment, or the recognition that something no longer fits. Exhaustion is not always evidence of devotion. Sometimes it is how a familiar role prevents deeper questions from being heard. And one of those questions leads to the 4th rule, the rule that turns your own history into a cage. Rule 4: Changing direction means the years behind me were wasted. Imagine Daniel, 61, sitting outside the office where he has worked for 32 years. He is not planning to abandon his responsibilities. He only wants to reduce his hours and teach woodworking twice a week. But every time he considers it, one thought appears. After everything I invested, how can I step back now? Daniel is not only protecting a job. He is protecting the meaning of his past. This is where Jung's idea of individuation becomes useful. Jungian psychology describes the second half of life not as preserving one successful identity forever, but as integrating more of the personality, including parts that earlier duties left unexplored. A new direction does not make the old direction meaningless. A winter coat was not a mistake because spring arrived. Rule 5: Strong people carry their burdens alone. This rule survives through compliments. You always handle things. Nothing shakes you. Eventually, asking for help feels like betraying the character everyone admires. So you edit your answers. You say tired instead of lonely. Busy instead of frightened. Fine instead of uncertain. But strength that cannot receive becomes a performance with no intermission. The inversion is that asking for support may protect dignity more than silent endurance does. It allows another person to meet you, not merely depend on you. Support may be practical, emotional, or professional when distress becomes difficult to manage. The point is not to surrender responsibility. It is to stop treating isolation as proof of character. And this brings us to the rule families often defend most strongly, not because it is good for you, but because it keeps you predictable. Rule 6: I must remain the person others recognize. Every family makes invisible casting decisions. One person becomes the rescuer. Another becomes the forgiving one. Someone is expected to be cheerful, available, successful, or permanently reasonable. The role may have begun as a response to real circumstances. Years later, the circumstances change while the role remains. When you begin setting limits, people may say, "You have changed." Often, they are correct. The real question is whether the earlier version of you had enough room to keep growing. Jungian thought distinguishes the social persona from the fuller psychological life that cannot be completely contained by it. Individuation does not mean rejecting society or becoming careless with others. It means reducing the distance between the life you display and the life you privately know to be true. Sometimes people resist that reduction. Your constant availability benefited them. Your silence protected them from difficult conversations. Their resistance is information, not a verdict. Rule 7: It is too late to want a different life. This rule rarely sounds like fear. It sounds like wisdom. Be realistic. You missed your moment. Do not embarrass yourself. Be grateful for what you have. After 50, practical limits are real. Money, health, commitments, and consequences matter. But realism becomes a prison when every complication is treated as a prohibition. A different life may mean protecting one morning a week, returning to a skill you abandoned, answering the phone less often, or making one relationship more honest. The deepest inversion is this. The voice saying, "too late," may not be maturity. It may be the frightened guardian of an identity that does not know how to survive your growth. So how do you break a rule that has lived inside you for decades? Not through rebellion. Through recognition. Listen for sentences containing must, always, never, and should. I must keep everyone calm. I should handle this alone. I can never disappoint them. These sentences reveal where a role has hardened into a law. Then ask. Who benefited when I learned this rule? What did it protect me from? What is it costing me now? The purpose is not to blame your family, culture, or younger self. Many rules began as intelligent adaptations. They helped you belong, survive conflict, or create stability. But an adaptation can remain long after the danger has passed. Jungian individuation is often described as movement toward greater psychological wholeness. Wholeness does not mean becoming perfect. It means making room for parts of yourself that were excluded so the acceptable version of you could succeed. That may include the part that needs rest, wants support, changed its mind, or wants to be loved without proving its usefulness. Choose one small experiment. Do not automatically solve a problem that belongs to another capable adult. Tell the truth without adding 10 explanations. Leave one non-essential task unfinished and notice the guilt without obeying it. Ask for help before reaching exhaustion. Then observe what appears. Guilt does not necessarily mean you chose wrongly. Someone else's disappointment does not prove you failed them. The life you built deserves respect. But respecting it does not require repeating it without revision. Perhaps the question after 50 is not, how do I keep being the person everyone expects? Perhaps it is, what becomes possible when I stop confusing an old role with my entire identity? You do not need to destroy your life to answer that question. You only need to stop abandoning the person who is still living inside it. Which rule has cost you the most? Share it in the comments, and subscribe to Inner Life Decoded for more thoughtful explorations of the psychology behind what you feel, do, and repeat.